Hey, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio, the podcast that features hundreds of great interviews with students of the flagship Amazon seller training that's produced more success stories by far than anything else out there. I'm talking about the course that can be found at this website, provenamazoncourse.com. Go check it out if you don't have it yet. $39 a month. Get you everything day one, and we hold your hand, baby step you into the business ideas that you're about to hear more about. With our guest today, Wayne Richardson is going to jump on here. He's been in our community for a long time, and with a very part-time effort, because he's been a school teacher and a school principal, and now he's approaching his later years and slowing down the pace of life, wanting to do some travel, but he's built a beautiful business and taken this community along with him. About 3 hours or so per day, he says, he runs his business. He did very well, about $800,000 in sales last year at a nice net margin. We get into all of that today in the discussion. But I really like the season of life that he's in, the wisdom he shares, his relational approach to this community, how open-handed he is about the ideas and being loving jumping into our Facebook group and sharing ideas and encouraging others. He's just a great leader and encourager in this community. He doesn't have any official role, just a great example of the kind of people that have been generated over the years as we've served with an abundance mindset in this community. What I mean by that is we don't have a scarcity mindset here. We see success as something that anybody who's ready to do the work, anybody can have it. That's an abundance mindset. A scarcity mindset would say, well, only some people get lucky and success finds a few people, and I'll probably never find success because everyone else is already having all the success. There's no room for me at the table. That's a scarcity mindset. But we know that e-commerce especially is a blue ocean of opportunity, expanding rapidly with an ever-increasing need for quality people of integrity who are really ready to work hard and learn and come alongside, partner, and grow with good people with similar attitudes. It's wide open. So come on into the community. You're about to meet a great member who has that mindset, and he just demonstrates it in the way he processes his business and explains what it is that he does. Like I said, he's built a beautiful business. He's a great student in the community, and I think you'll learn a lot of really good things from our guest today. So thanks for hanging out with us today. I appreciate your time. One last little thing. It's been a while since I mentioned this, but the book that started this podcast is called Silent Sales Machine. You can see a copy translated right down here if you're on the video. It was translated into foreign languages and sold 1 million copies around the world. Well, we're giving it away free, the latest version. And you can have it if you go to silentjim.com/free11, as in version 11, free11. silentjim.com/free11. Get a copy, go through it. I talk you through what the opportunities are in e-commerce and which ones make the most sense for you based on where you're at, what season of life, the finances you have, the ideas you have, what makes the most sense for you. And some of the things that don't work, I'd warn you away from as well. So it's 20 plus years of wisdom and experience from this community packed into a few chapters that hopefully will guide you towards making some great decisions in your e-commerce journey. Check it out. Let's get our guest on and enjoy the conversation. Let's go. So Wayne, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for jumping in here with me. And this is the best part of my job. I can't wait to hear your story if you're ready to go.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I've heard a lot of your podcast, and as I think you know, I've been a big fan for a while. You know, I started e-commerce, I guess you would say. I've been an educator for years, and when I was a teacher, it was very hard to support a family of 5 people on a teacher salary, and then I became an assistant principal and a principal. But in the meantime, we were so far in debt that I had to find another way to make more income. And I pretty well believe nowadays you almost have to have 2 sources of income. I think I started selling diet pills on eBay or something like that. And I don't even remember how that started, but I just bought them in bulk and sold them and made, maybe $5 a bottle. And it was great. But after a while, it wasn't a lot of money. I just remember the first time, probably 2014, I found an old college textbook that I had, and I just happened to scan it with the Amazon app, not the seller app, just the app, and discovered it was worth $75. And I thought, oh my gosh. So that was, and it sold immediately. So that's kind of where I started. From there, I've sold now, like I said, since 2014 or 15, and, introduced several people to selling on Amazon. One of the things that I believe, and one things that I really appreciate about your presence in your group is I've been involved in some other groups with Amazon selling, and the focus was always on money, and which is great because money is important. But to me, it's always been about much more than that. As I said, when I got into e-commerce, it was more about just trying to make ends meet. And at that time, Second and Charles had a free box out in front. And I used to call it my manna box because I would go out there and I would, come back with books that were like $200. It was the weirdest thing. It was such a gangbuster time on Amazon. And once I got my brother started selling on Amazon, he found a book in there that sold for $500. It was free. There's things like that. It was a real treasure hunt sort of thing for us, which really fed us in that regard. But what I came away from it on the idea of manna was that it just really was about recognizing the blessing that we have through Amazon. And as I would go back to what I was saying, I feel like your community really focuses on, raising your game. You've talked about that 100 times, but it's also more about what's more important. I think you do a really good job at focusing on that. My wife we've gone to one conference. She's gone to one conference. I've been to a couple, and she's a huge fan. She says that Jim Cochran was going to live in the apartment next to St. Peter in heaven. So
I don't know about that. You need to talk to my wife. Get the real scoop.
But I really think, and not, when I've gone to the conferences, not everyone, a lot of people are very monetarily focused, but there's enough people that just care about people that it's very clear and that recognizes the gift that is what they've been given. Because as I mentioned to you once before, I didn't do anything to deserve this. I've been very fortunate. I've sold, I typically, the last several years have sold a little under $1 million and, walked away probably 15%, after our ROI at the end of the year. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it's certainly enough money to make a difference in my life. Yeah. And, it's really where I want to be right now. For a while there, I was trying to compete with myself from year to year. And slowly I started thinking, but why? I'm 66 years old. I need to be focusing on what's important for my time. This is great. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy helping people learn how to do it and what, techniques to use, but it's not something that, it's not just about growing in business. It's about growing as a person, learning more and just constantly staying open into other people's ideas and thoughts and suggestions.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. I love getting to know your heart a little bit and to see if this resonates. You've heard me say some of these things before, Wayne, but it's an opportunity for me to express some of what's shaped the culture around here. Many of us on the leadership team subscribe to a biblical vision of business, and relationships is where I always end up going. Business is designed for relationships, not the other way around. And what I mean by that is it's not like these relationships that you end up getting into are just a nice little side benefit of doing business the right way. Everyone who does business the right way ends up in some great relationships that they otherwise wouldn't have had. But that's the main point. From a biblical vantage point, God gave us business for those relationships. That's why it exists. So if you're trying to do it out of solely a money focused, like I got to have more money, I got to find out the strategies, I got to hit the right buttons on the computer and make more money. That's the wrong way. It's not going to work. But you come at it from relational, that's where you say you kind of appreciate the heart and the culture of what's being built here.
Well, and you've heard, make your misery your ministry. Being so hard to make ends meet. Now having the opportunity to help other people find a way to do that is huge. And it really, and like I said, I think you and a lot of people in your group do a great job with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and we do consider it our ministry, and I call it leaders with a limp. I don't know if you've heard me use that phraseology before, a leader with a limp. I'll trust a leader who's been through the trenches and gotten knocked down and come back from that way before I'll trust someone who's never lost. They just win, 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 win. It's interesting. That's kind of the story of Kang, the guy behind 3P Mercury. He was on a true winning streak in life, in business. He had never lost, but he did then face a major loss. That's episode 754. I talked to him about it for those who want to go back and re-listen. But he'd built a multiple $1 million business as a student in this community, $3 million, kind of running on autopilot. And, sure, he's grateful for it, but he was just winning. He's like, I win at everything I do. I won in my marriage. I won in business. I won starting this side business. Win, win, win. Then suddenly God just knocked him for a loop, man. And he had to come to realize, man, I need God a lot more than I thought. And he's now got a very close walk with God, but it also woke him up to what his true calling in life was and the relationships that were all around him that he was supposed to lean into. And he's become an incredible leader now. I love working with him. The guy before he got knocked on his back, I don't know that I'd had an easy time working with that guy, but you give me a leader with a limp, you give me someone who's come back from a really hard season or hard loss of some kind, and they've made their way back into the game. Oh, those are the best leaders. And that's what I hear in your story too, Wayne, that you faced some serious financial struggles and had to figure this thing out, man. Like this needed to work. And it became that, and it led to relationships as well that you've benefited from. So I love that part of your story. Yeah.
And I think too, I think making the relationships are great. I've shared some of the things that I've done with some other people that work in Amazon. Typically, it's more, you just bounce ideas off one another. And I think you just get stronger from that. But that's not the end game. It's about, I don't want to be too hokey, but it's about letting people know they're not alone. And that I think is part of my ministry is to those people that are out there by themselves or feel like they're by themselves. If they put something on your website or the Facebook group, I just reach out and say, let me know if you ever need anything, because it's not for any other reason except I know what it's like to just feel alone. And, that's the one bad thing about e-commerce is that unless you recognize that, and I will say, I do think your community really fills that gap for a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, my mentor, Rabbi Lappin, talks about how isolation is a form of torture used by militaries throughout history to break even the most hardened, disciplined, strong soldiers. You just isolate them and you'll break them in a few days. Don't tell them how long they'll be there. Separate them from human contact. And they're psychologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that you can crush anyone. But we do it to ourselves in e-commerce. We sit behind our computer by ourselves. We think that these Facebook interactions we're having are real. I mean, that's like, the difference between a thimble full of salt water and being on the beach. It's just like, there's no comparison. Real life relationships are necessary, required part of life. Yeah. So I love the observation you make that if you try to do it alone, you're going to struggle and you may not even realize why you're struggling. So this community is very intentional about, at a minimum, reach out and get those kind of random Facebook friends and relationships. And maybe even it'll grow up into evolve into a Zoom mastermind or something. Those are great, but you got to have those deep conversations, those deep relationships, those real friendships that emerge, those lifetime partnerships and things. If you're not getting that somewhere in your life, you're going to struggle, not just in business, but in every area of life. And our community has been that for a lot of people. I appreciate you putting
one thing that's kind of interesting is as much, I've been a member of PAC for, I don't even know, I guess since 2014. And there's so much training on that. And I've watched an unbelievable amount of training. And of that training, I mean, this has been such a slow burn. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm that smart of a person. But, as years go by, all of a sudden you say, okay, now I get what he was saying. The whole idea of systems in place. My I speak Excel pretty well, which is
Hmm.
really my tool of choice because, between, I know a lot of people are using 3P Mercury and things like that. And I'm actually exploring that as well right now. But my thing is I've used Inventory Lab, pulled the reports, the ASIN profitability reports. I integrate it with my leads list and I get a list of what sold the last month or whatever, and just keep it going that way, which, you know, the idea of systems, you've been talking about systems since I've been listening.
Hmm.
It just has taken me about, 10 years to hear it, but it's important. And those are the kinds of things that those conversations, while they made me feel good and made me think, oh, yeah, okay, I get that, really didn't get it until I saw it for myself. And I think that's just how we're made. I think the only way you actually improve in anything, in business, in anything, is through mulling over what other people have said so that it can become part of you. And like I said, I feel like Pact has done that for me well.
I love it. Yes. And the importance of systems. And yeah, because we're not trying to build something that consumes us. The difference, and you've probably heard me say this before, Wayne, but the thought that came to mind as you were saying that is the way the internet changed the possibilities. You can still do business the way it's been done since the beginning of time. And really, the reality of business will never change. It's creating value for your customers at a rate that's profitable for you. Otherwise, you go out of business. If it's not profitable, you shut down. If it is profitable, you continue serving with excellence and your customers are happy and you're making a profit. Right? That's business. But the way the internet changed the game was it took so much of the risk out of it. And you could build processes and systems that took very little risk to establish. So you're not spending tens of thousands of dollars and hoping someday that you see a return. You're spending a little bit here and there, a little bit of time, and you're building systems that run and routines
And
so
now,
standard
are those
operating.
available for Walmart? Because I know a lot of people are selling at Walmart. I just don't see the same level of data available for Walmart.
Well, the challenge, one of the big challenges with Walmart, to take a little sidebar for a moment, is they were gaining momentum fast. It slowed down a little bit as an opportunity. It's still there for sure. But they're just not predictable and stable enough to build a system around. It's kind of like with eBay. I would say the same thing about eBay. Yeah, you can make some money there, but I don't know anyone who has a dialed in eBay system
Yeah.
at scale. Everybody I know who's doing eBay at scale is building a death pile of stuff they don't know what to do with, right? Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Mine's liquidation, but it is becoming a death pile. Sure enough.
Yeah, over time, right? Whereas with Amazon, it truly is a system. It truly is a business in your pocket. I can take this phone in my hand and go anywhere in the world and, I don't have to touch anything. There's no inventory piling up anywhere. If it doesn't sell, I drop the price and it flies out the door, break even or small loss, maybe as a worst case scenario. Everything else is selling profitably and you can scale it up, add commas and zeros. The software's there, the systems are there. The challenge with things like eBay and even with Walmart is the data just isn't there to allow you to make reasonably educated, highly confident level decisions on what you're going to invest in. It just isn't there. So you find yourself guessing a lot more. You don't know how long it's going to take to sell. You don't know what your profit might be. But with Amazon, there's so many more transactions and there's such better data that you can go in with a ridiculously high confidence level and say, if I spend $10 on this widget, within 2 weeks to 8 weeks, I'm going to sell it at between $5 and $8 of net profit with about a 95% degree of certainty. Okay, how many do I want to go buy? Right? You just can't do that with eBay and Walmart. And that's the reason. It's harder to develop a system because
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, there's random elements that prevent a system from being established.
Yeah.
What it comes down to.
Well, and I don't know if you remember, but at one point I got my account got banned, or what is that called? Suspended. Thank you.
Yeah. With Section 3 or something else?
No, it was hotel collections. The scents that you buy from hotels, but I did everything just exactly right, and I mean perfectly. And at that time, Stephen Gill, who's another member of the community, reached out to me because I'd mentioned Hedgehog Collection. And he said, same here. And so he and I got to be friends. And I'm going to give a shout out to Jeff Schick and Leah, particularly, and Lewis. But they went above and beyond because luckily Hotel Collection was located in Miami, which is where Jeff is. And it took about a month and a half. But I had resigned myself to the fact that it may be over. And I think I wrote you at that time and I just said, and this is true, I want to be thankful for whatever I'm given. And whenever it comes, I do think of Amazon like I'm riding a bull. And I do think it keeps trying to bump me off. And one day it may. But when it does, I want to be grateful for the time I've had with it. It's been a huge blessing. And, like I said, I'm 66. I may have another 20 years left in me. I mean, Amazon, I'm like one of those cars when your car starts needing a duct tape to hold on the headlights, or, that's the state of my account. But in a lot of ways, it's more smooth now than it's ever been. But at the same time, I've been through a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. And I've learned a lot of things, and a lot of things are uniquely mine just because I don't say struggled with them, because once I get a project in my mind, I'm so focused. It's flow for me, and I just get after it. But I do know that the day may come that I'm bumped off. And I know you're very quick to say that most people get reinstated, and I did get reinstated, but I never expect that, just simply because my philosophy on that is whenever you expect anything, you're just going to be disappointed. I like to live my life recognizing that we're just blessed, and we're blessed right now. And we're blessed for this time, and we may not be blessed for this thing again next week. But, you got to just love where you are and what God's given you now. And so, I'm hoping I stick with it for a while. I'm in a very unique position right now because I'm 66 and I just took my first Social Security check. So this coming year, I can't make more than $24,000 or I get penalized for it. So I am... I'm waiting to find out when y'all do the conference, because I'm going, and we're gonna use plane tickets and everything. Because I got to keep my income low this year. So, but it's nothing but blessings, truly. So,
well, a couple thoughts come to mind. First, you mentioned the conference. I can tell you that last full week of August 2026. Mark it out. I can't give you any more than that right now, but we'll have some news for you very soon. Okay.
Good.
So that last full week of August on the calendar, mark it out. And I think that with a little focused attention and effort to 3P Mercury, you could be earning way more than whatever that Social Security bump is, to where you just don't care if they keep their money, because you've got the knowledge and tools now to just blow that kind of number out of the water. But it's always been an interesting thing for me to hear people say, it's like, I can't earn too much, or I lose my, whatever it is, 600 or 800 a month or whatever. Like, how about we just earn like 8 times, 10 times that and forget about that check? It's kind of my mentality. So depending on where you're at, life has seasons, and what your budget is and what you need, right? So I'm not trying to talk you.
But yeah, it's not even that as much. Typically, men in my family don't live super long, and I've been putting money in Social Security for years. I wanted to go and so I'm getting it 1 year early. Next year, I'll be able to make as much as I want. But I just decided it's time. So.
I got you. Yeah, it's always interesting math decisions to be made there in that season of life. But but you've got the knowledge. You've got the community, you've got the mindset. More importantly, I think that's, the longer I teach this, we've had thousands of students come through now. And I used to think it was a matter of intelligence or even determination,
right,
or timing, or, previous successes, as an indicator of or disciplines. And anymore, it's a commitment to relationships. If you're willing to always be learning and you're willing to pursue strategic relationships and be genuine about it, those are the greatest indicators of someone's success. They just are. It seems simplistic perhaps, but none of the other indicators have consistently performed where people stick around for years and have great things to say, and they tend to just kind of keep riding the wave of successes and opportunities that come their way. The willingness to learning and building relationships.
Yeah, he was doing bundles right when I first started, and he was really excited about it. He said, as long as I've got my bundles, I'm okay. He didn't he sort of turned off the learning at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's doing now, but this doesn't allow you. I mean, it's not like medicine or engineering, but it's pretty close. I mean, it changes every day.
Yeah.
And, I got through so many gatings every, just probably 3 or 4 a month that I was selling well on. But, there's just so much inventory that I'm making it up in other ways. But it's, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Yeah, there's always more to learn. But the thing that continues to keep me so excited about this model in particular is just all the big indicators are in our favor. More shoppers than ever. Amazon's the biggest player in the space. They're building warehouses like crazy. There's actually fewer shoppers getting involved in the opportunity now than there used to be, which means there's fewer of us responsible for filling more shelves.
Yeah.
Right. So the opportunity is doing nothing but expanding. And I think Amazon, from my perspective as well, has really leveled out. You experienced some of the turbulence of what I called the inconsistency, the incongruency between policy and enforcement. It's like unpredictable behavior like crazy when it came to policy and it wasn't clear, and then the enforcement of unclear policies. That has really changed from my perspective for the past 2 or 3 years, to the point where I'm just hearing far fewer head-scratching stories than I used to. I can go months without hearing a head-scratch story. There for a while, it was every week. It's like, who got suspended for what? Huh? What that happened? That was, but starting about 2.5, 3 years ago, that just started to settle, and it's rare now. Hey, we'll get back to the episode in just a minute, but I want to tell you about our sponsor today, 2D Workflow. What do? Well, they help save a lot of sellers a lot of money on the inbound shipping fees that you're paying Amazon. What they've done is they've gone out and negotiated some great rates, better than Amazon's rates, with the same carriers you're already using to send shipments to Amazon. So you can see a side-by-side comparison and use the cheapest rates. If it doesn't work out for you, just uninstall the app. But for a couple of weeks, they're going to give you full free access, and you can see the rates side by side. If you love it, keep using it. If you don't, just uninstall it. They're a great sponsor of this show, and we're so grateful for them. Go check them out at silentjim.com/2D. That's the number 2 and the letter D. Thank you, 2D Workflow, for the sponsorship. Let's get back to the episode. And it's rare now. I can't think of the last time. It's been several years since I heard a head scratch story. It's typically people who just didn't follow policy. They just completely ignored it and said, well, I'm going to get what I can while I can and see what happens.
I think that was the reason that I was, when Leah and Lewis particularly, but Jeff as well, worked so hard for me, because in my situation, I bought it from the manufacturer. Yeah. But Amazon they wouldn't budge. And slowly they just did a wonderful appeal, and it really worked out, but it did take a month and a half. And so that was a real wake-up call for me. Yeah. And it also made me start looking at my numbers, so that each month I did not spend more than I made the month before. So, I can say with certainty, hey, this month I'm going to draw, $3,000, and I'll be good. And this is how much I'm going to put in profit. But before that, I didn't. Before that, heck, I would, there were some months that I think I just really overspent and just didn't really know what I was doing. And I think about it, it's very cringy to think back on my experience on Amazon, but I'm very thankful for learning the way I did, because I think it's the only way to learn.
Yeah, I think it's Jim Rohn that talks about a business owner is the glass ceiling to their own business. Like your own maturity, your decision-making ability, your risk tolerance, your willingness to be humble, your delayed gratification capabilities. Like that's the ceiling on your business. And as you mature, I know some very immature 70-year-olds, just like they are not built for doing a business or doing anything else the right way, really. A lot of 40-year-old boys out there, as I say. But that maturing process of becoming a better version of you makes you a more capable business owner. That's something I love about business is it's a reflection of your inside game, and you can measure see the results, like your risk tolerance, and you're not making cringy decisions anymore to make, to use your analogy, you're making very responsible, calculated, you're building systems. Yeah, outstanding. I
Right.
love your journey, man. What else do you want to share? I do want to get into your numbers, but what other lessons have you learned? You've been in the community a long time, and I
Yeah.
appreciate the long-term loyalty. Make some observations and speak from the heart.
Yeah, I do think there are, as you said, so many opportunities. And that's the most exciting part of it, especially with AI getting so big. A lot of things. I don't know if there's been a lot of talk about creating custom GPTs, but I've used them quite often. And one of the things that I use them for, which I highly recommend if someone doesn't have something like this, is I built one, but I'm sure there's other ones too. Just I put in a product in the GPT, and it'll tell me whether it's a reliable source. It looks at, are they going to charge me tariffs, which has happened a couple of times, another cringy decision. But also, what is the Trustpilot score? What is all these different scores? And it gets to me all at once, which is huge. It saves a lot of time to find a new products. Now, and then there's also one GPT that I created just to find alternate sources. When I find a product on Keepa, for example, I can take that product and put it into my GPT and say, what sources can you find for me? And it goes deeper than just Google, but and you can keep doing it. So I would highly encourage anyone who has not played with that to do it. It's a lot of fun, and it's really kind of cool what it's doing now, what it's going to be able to do probably in the next couple of years. Probably just be able to say, buy this, this, and this. Who knows? But
Yeah.
really,
had you heard some of the things we're doing in 3P Mercury with AI? Some of the
I had not.
Yeah. So here, it's already helping you identify, let's say you have tens of thousands of ASINs that you've loaded in, and you identified a process earlier. Let me just talk about that for a moment. You said you look at what's sold in the past month, right? And then you say, okay, which of this do I want to sell again? Which looks good? And most sellers kind of do that. But what that process is leaving out is, what about the stuff that doesn't look good this month, doesn't look good next month, or the month after, that 9 months from now becomes gold? Unless you have a system to go back and monitor and check all of your old ASINs constantly, you're going to miss out on a lot. 3P Mercury does that. It monitors your whole data set constantly and tells you at any given time which ones are the best ones for you to be paying attention to. And then you go in and make your decisions, right? So there's no manual process needed. It's doing that automatically.
Right.
The other thing that's coming, we're within inches of launching and seeing as a reality, is not only the sourcing creativity that you mentioned, like where are all the sources where I might go to buy this? And 3P can make that suggestion, as well as the best price in real time. So maybe supplier A has the best price today, but a few weeks from now, supplier B has a better price. Well, how about we update that in the system as we're making our recommendation decisions? So we're putting this very intelligent process to work. It's almost like having a team of really well-trained virtual assistants just poring over your ASINs constantly. And you can dump more ASINs in front of them anytime you want, and they're going to monitor them, find the best sources, find the best prices, help you make the best decisions, and hand you a stack of the best ones anytime you want it. It's pretty incredible compared to the processes we all had to grow up with. And you've seen it over the past several years, getting excited about scanning barcodes in clearance aisles. That's how the term replens, you may remember, Wayne, came about because up until we had replens or replenishable inventory, we were all just getting excited anytime we found anything we could sell. And like, oh, I'm going to go buy 10 of these. This is exciting. And then once they're gone, they're gone. I'm going to buy 5 more things. Well, that was an eye-opening concept to say, wait, I could actually get into things that I get to buy over and over and over again. That's exciting. And now we're doing that at scale. So what thoughts do you have here and all that?
I mean, I've played with 3P Mercury a little bit. My problem is, of course, I haven't really differentiated my leads so much. I've got probably about 20,000 leads that I've collected over the years, and some of them don't even exist in this world anymore. So I would really need to, I do need to trim it down. I'm on the trial plan right now, but I'm playing with it a little bit, just trying to figure it out. And I'm finding some things through it, for sure. But then there's some things that, I'm just, like I said, I may or may not. But once again, to be very honest, I have so many things I can buy right now that, and which is good. Going back to the Social Security thing, while I say I can't earn more than $24,000 this year, that just means anything I earn more than that has to go back in inventory because we're doing it on a cash basis. So I just keep,
Right.
as long as I'm, so I can stack it up. And so next year I'll have all that inventory in
Just
there.
don't draw it out. Just pour it back into more inventory. And
Right.
it sounds like you're saying, Wayne, there's more great inventory out there for you to buy than you've got the funds to buy. So your problem isn't finding good inventory. Is that where?
Yeah, I've gotten to the point now. It's a lot easier for me to find inventory because I have enough replenishables that I can find fairly simple.
Mhm.
But then again, I do have a leads list that I get simply to let me know when there's a sale. I figure $10 a day, and they'll tell me they're having a sale, and so I do a lot of scraping right there on whatever that site is. So between that and then my regular sourcing things, and then I use Nepedo, Jimmy's explanation of that was very helpful, and use Keepa to come up with those sources. So between all of that, I've got a lot that I can buy, and like I said, at my age, I get to the point I think, okay, how much of this do I want to do? I enjoy it a lot. I don't want to do it so much I stop enjoying it. That's work.
Yeah. So how many hours a week are you putting into it?
Probably about 3 hours a day.
3 a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we haven't hit the numbers yet. So, what's the recent good month for you, or what'd you do last year? Hit me with a couple numbers.
Let's see. Well, this past year, we did, I want to say $800,000 worth of sales. And I think the takeaway was right at 73. So it's about 15%, or actually, I guess it would be more like 10% of what my sales were, but it's 15% of what my actual costs were. I guess if that makes any sense. So what I put into the business,
Yeah.
I brought out 15%.
You know about ROI and net profit. Yeah. So you made 73,000 net profit, which
right.
If you'd made 10% net, that'd be 80,000, right?
Right. It was ROI. Yeah. But yes, as far as what I actually put in business, that's one thing that's always been confusing. So if I sell 80% or 800,000, I could make 80,000 and that would be 10% from what I sold. Mm-hmm. But what I actually put into the business was not, I didn't buy it for that much. So it's strange when I actually look at the numbers through my business account, it's about 15%. So I did less, I'm still learning, obviously.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the difference between ROI and net profit, and we don't, the way you calculate net profit is, if you sold 800,000 and you put 80 in the bank, that's a 10% net profit business. Right. It's based off.
I see what you're saying. You're saying.
That's net profit. So ROI is calculated differently. That's based on how much you invested in.
That's kind of.
So ROI takes into account what your investment was. Net profit doesn't care what your investment was. It just looks at profit compared to.
I've never really thought of that, but thank you for explaining it, because
sure,
makes a lot of sense now.
Sure, yeah, because we see, we'll see oftentimes, someone has 120% ROI and 30% net profit. Like, okay, what's the difference? What's going on there?
Yeah.
It's net profit is it's the most common way to express it because people report their sales numbers all the time. It's easy number to come up with. How much do you sell? Well, I sold 800,000. All right. Well, what was your net profit? What'd you put in the bank? Oh, I put 80 in the bank. All right, that's 10% net profit. Then
gotcha.
But you're talking 3 hours a day. I don't like to do quick math on the air. Sometimes, I'll get my numbers wrong, but that's assuming you don't work 7 days a week. So you work about 15 hours a week. That's a pretty good gig for 15 hours a week, putting $75 to round up in the bank. That's a great gig.
Well, as I said, I'm retired now too, so I have my pension. So really, this is just kind of over and above that. Once again, I know it's just a blessing.
Yeah.
And I earned a blessing.
Well, I love the pace that you've established, and it sounds like you've got a lot of opportunities ahead of you, but you're also doing the math and kind of thinking through, hey, what do I want my last season of life to be about? And, the season that God's bringing me into, having the right priorities and perspectives. And And
Yeah, I think you wrote something recently about traveling and
yeah,
that you could travel where you wanted to go or something like that. And Lisa shared that with me, and I thought, I mean, that's kind of where I am. I
yeah,
want to do that.
yeah, experience. It's more for me. As I'm looking at, I'm well into the second half of my life, easily, arguably. The second half is well begun, and leaving that legacy, that example, finishing strong, staying in build mode. I have no desire whatsoever for retirement. The word repulses me. And I was relieved when I found out several years ago that there's no word in the Bible or in the Hebrew language for retirement. It's a nonsensical concept,
Yeah.
right? Now, you can say retirement planning or whatever. It's not like, you want to be planning for the future, but that idea of suddenly one day making your life all about me getting what I want, when I want it on my own terms and ignoring the rest of the world. I mean, that's nonsense. You've got to be in serve, give, build, experience, explore, learn mode constantly the rest of your life. That's how I'm thinking. So I plan to build a business the rest of my life because I
Well, I'd probably still be a principal, except public education, you're kind of incentivized to retire because eventually you're working for no extra money. I mean, I'm getting paid as much as I was when I was working. So, or a
you
little bit
move through
less.
seasons of capability. A
Yeah.
guy who swings a hammer for a living is like, oh, I had to retire, hit 64, just couldn't do that anymore. Well, you start using your mind and your experiences more than your physical capabilities, obviously, but you never turn off serving others. That's the part that never gets shut off because to do so is a death sentence, I'm convinced. Spiritually, motivation, relationally, if everything's just about you getting what you want, man, your life becomes miserable very fast. So you got to be about serving others, experiencing, exploring, traveling. Yeah, for sure. But I love the season you're in. And something this illustrates is, Wayne, this business is many different things to many different people. For some people, a few extra $1,000 a month and kind of keeping it spending and staying creative, and man, that's all they want out of this, and they're thrilled with the difference it's made in their life, and they call it a blessing, like you. And others, multiple seven figures, and sky's the limit. And that young guy we had here not too long ago with an 8-figure business, Stephen, 8 figures in online arbitrage, and he's got a team of 15 people helping him pack his stuff. It's like, hey, that's all. And he's traveling the world too, by the way, because he's built systems.
Yeah.
I love the variety of possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else comes to mind, man? Anything else on your mind? I appreciate you sharing what you have.
Just, like I said, I really look forward to sitting down with other people that are selling and sharing, being vulnerable. And I think a lot of folks in your community are vulnerable, which is really nice. A lot of them are fountains of knowledge, and I know they get that through mistakes. But it's because it's really the only way you learn is through mistakes. So, as I said, I'm glad that I'm still floating on this boat, and whenever it tumbles over, that'll be fine. I am. But in the meantime, I do thank you for the job you do. I don't know if you're familiar with C.S. Lewis, Surprised by Joy. Are you familiar with?
I know of the work. Yes, I haven't. That's one of his books I haven't read though.
Well, it's his autobiography.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's just basically talking about that, you know, throughout his life, he wanted to find meaning, and in a multitude of ways. And one way is he all of a sudden got really interested in Nordic sagas, and he wanted to read everything about that. And eventually that kind of got kind of boring. And then he said, well, I just think spending time with friends, and he just kept doing that, and he kept on, and pretty soon he's pretty annoying to people. And he was talking to J.R.R. Tolkien, and he came to realize that, you know, at the end of the thing, the surprise by joy is the idea of walking through a forest and seeing like you're lost in a forest. And you see these signs that say, the city's this way, the city's this way, the city's this way. And he's walking through it. And because he's so lost, he just holds on to those signs. And he says, oh, thank God I found the sign. And he goes over here and he gets to this sign. He says, oh, thank God, another sign. But what he realized is it all points to the city, it all points to God. And everything, including Amazon in my life, is a blessing that, it's just I can hold on to it for a while, but I recognize that it came from him. And all those things that we love and all of our friends and all of our family, they're all gifts from him. So recognizing that, I think, would be my one takeaway to anyone that's listening to this is, recognize that this is just one more sign to something bigger than Amazon or anything else.
Wow. Yeah, that message of gratitude, and not just being gratitude for the sake of being grateful, but thanking God. The biblical vantage point is that's our purpose. We were created for praise, which is basically gratitude and relationship. So yeah, God gives us, it's no surprise that God gives us business. I like the way one of my mentors, Rabbi Lappin, I mentioned him earlier, talks about business. He said, why should we be surprised that God has built a system that rewards us abundantly when we serve his other children well? We as parents love to see our children treated well.
Yeah.
Why should it surprise us that God has built this incredible rewarding system, not just monetary reward, but the abundance of relationships and those chances to be vulnerable? And it strikes me, I think you'll appreciate this, Wayne. You talk about the mastermind groups and the people that kind of have formed relationships, that anytime I check in on a group that's lasted more than, say, 6 months, which, by the way, every time we have a conference, we launch an abundance of mastermind groups.
Right.
The ones that keep going and stick with it, I like it asking them this question. I say, how much time do you guys spend talking about life versus business now that you've been doing this 6 months or so? And overwhelmingly, I can't think of an exception. They all have kind of ascended. I don't want to say descended. They've ascended into talking a lot more about life,
Right.
and vulnerabilities, to use your word, of just every day, as opposed to just business, as if that diminishes it somehow. Extreme value in doing it that, but yeah, that's why God gave us business, and having gratitude for that, and enjoying the relationships that result. That's what this community has become all about over time. We started off teaching strategy, and it's become a relational collection of people lifting each other up and helping each other, and very diversified worldview. But at its heart is this love that I know comes from my Heavenly Father. That's what equips me. And just those divine appointments, the right relationships at the right time, and the right people joining our group and bringing ideas. It's like it is a ministry from my vantage point, clearly.
I'm sure. No.
Yeah. Well, what else do you have, man? This has been a great episode. I love how we kind of wandered around, but I love the season of life you're in, and a chance to pull a few nugget wisdoms. And I hope I didn't soapbox too much, but I'm passionate about these topics.
Well, I started talking at the beginning. I didn't think I was ever going to stop, so I apologize for that too. No, I've just encourage people to keep exploring. If anyone wants to, I'll be glad to share anything I do with at the Excel tables. A lot of the stuff that I do with that are completely accessible. My GPTs, if they want, I'm not even sure how to do that, but I think if they type in, I think it's reliable sources. That's one I use constantly. They may find my GPT. I don't really know how that part of it works, but just anything anything I can do for anybody else, they can certainly reach out, and that includes new people. I'm kind of an open book. If I have time, I'll certainly talk to them. And
well, I appreciate that open-handed, giving heart, and we've certainly seen so many leaders in this community emerge with exactly that way. And if you get more email than you know what to do with, or more people reaching out to you, man, just send them over to our team. We'll take great care of them, as you know, free consultations on the phone,
Sure.
and talk people through. And that this is an incredible collection of abundance-minded, successful leaders who are willing and ready and eager to help. And I was on the phone just today to give an example of why it's almost a self-serving thing to be so open to new sellers, because new sellers and newbies, clueless people who asking all these silly questions, they make some of the most incredible observations. I learned a new ungating technique from someone who's been in our community about a week, and they're clueless, but they played with something like, wait, that worked? Yeah, whole new ungating strategy that we're going to be posting in the group. I'm going to check it out a little bit before I throw it out there, but brand new student. So the reason, to make the point I'm trying to make, the reason that it makes so much sense for us to be so kind and generous and open-handed and open-hearted, abundance-minded with brand new sellers is because many, if not most of them, go on to contribute in a significant way new ideas, energy, concepts that we never otherwise would have been exposed to. So it's not just a matter of being nice. This is how we build our community, is we bring those people in, we then benefit from their experiences. And
what you said too earlier about, I think loving people sometimes looks like that, is sharing those ideas. It's about, and you think about what you said earlier about, God looking at us, and he wants us to treat his children well. And like I said, I don't know if there's another person out there that's in $100,000 worth of debt that they've got to work off. But, if I can be a party to that, when Jeff Schick's group helped me get ungated or get reinstated, I reached out to Stephen, who had reached out to me, and his guys had not done anything that they had done. And I shared it. I just said, but he had a whole bunch of people that were depending on him, and I didn't. And I thought, yeah, first of all, I'm never going to have all these people depending on me. But, I was so glad to be able to help him with that and to share with him what they had shared with me. And I'm sure, I'm hoping he changed lanes after that and went with Jeff, because Jeff, they saved me and they saved him, really.
Yeah, they're a great sponsor of this show, and I'll stick a link to them in the comments. Yeah. Anyone who has any kind of policy or legal challenges or issues with Amazon, Jeff Schick and his team are tremendous. Yeah, long-term good friends of this community. And yep. Well, hey, I've got to wrap this up here. I'm getting a text for my next appointment, and we've put together what I think is a very good episode today, Wayne. Thank you for your time.
Of course.
I'd love to see you in August.
Yeah.
We'll have announcements soon, man.
Put it on there right now.
Awesome. Yeah, block out that last week of August. We'll have more details soon. Just so you know, and for the listeners as well, you can keep up to date on the latest announcements about the conference at theprovenconference.com. That website, 3 words, theprovenconference.com. The longest running annual Amazon seller event in the world. Pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
That's us, man. So we'll do it again soon and have details posted there very soon. But all right, Wayne, well, I gotta bounce out of here, buddy. I think you and I could just sit here and talk and reminisce and share some wisdom back and forth for a long time. And maybe we'll do it again in the near future, my friend. But God bless you. I appreciate it.
Bless you too.
Thank you, sir. For the listeners who hung out with us today, if you enjoyed this, I've got some great news for you. We've got over 1,100 podcast episodes. And if you listen from the most recent and go back in time, you're just going to hear a whole bunch of great recent stories of students from this community at all stages of growth and development, multiple 7-figure. We had an 8-figure seller recently with online arbitrage, all kinds of fans of this community, coaching students, proven Amazon course students, telling their very real stories from the heart. If you want more of that, just scroll back in time and listen to our show. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll have another great episode for you very soon. We'll talk to you then. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us today. One last time before I let you go, I want to remind you about that free offer from 2D Workflow. They're the ones that can help you save a lot of money on your inbound shipping with FBA. They've gone out and negotiated great rates with all the carriers you're already using, and you can see a side-by-side comparison as you're preparing your shipments. And if they have a better rate, use it. It's the same carrier, less money. Why not? Go check out silentjim.com/2D, the number 2, the letter D, to see 2D Workflow. Thanks for spending time with us today. We'll have more great episodes for you very soon.